soul just for you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall again.
Well, I'd like to let you know I saw Lonnie Jones here on episode 35, and we're going to talk a little bit today about how God steered me through a lot of people and some country and bluegrass music and places that some of the places I've been. How I met Bill Monroe, and where I met Bill Monroe at. Started talking to Bill, and we become good friends. And I don't know that you can say that this is what God did for me, but I would say it is how He guided me through all the places that I did, the things that I done through my country and bluegrass music. By no means I've become anything but just an old country boy that just loves to play and sing bluegrass music. And I've been doing it for quite a while now, and so I'm going to tell you where I met Bill and a little bit about how Bill, what things that Bill and I did together, and on this episode, and then we'll talk about still some other stuff from where I met Bill. So let's get started by me telling you where I met Bill Monroe at. I met Bill Monroe at the Long Hollow Jamboree. Most of you know Eugene Harbison that's going to watch this probably. Ones that don't, he's the owner of the Long Hollow Jamboree. Well, I started playing music over with a lot of other people long before it was ever the Long Hollow Jamboree. It was actually a grocery store. You could buy groceries there. You could pump gas there. And Eugene Harbison was married to Golden Thompson's daughter. And Golden Thompson was the musician that wanted to have music over there. Now, mind you, when this started out, it had groceries, lines of groceries, shelves up and down the store. And Eugene was still pumping gas. And I believe Eugene maybe worked for DuPont. I'm pretty sure he worked for DuPont. But he still ran that store, him and his wife, ran the store and still pumped gas and everything, just as they always did. So Golden wanted to put, I think, some music in there, and of course, as we all know, Eugene Harbison, he also sings, and so I'm sure he was ready to go right along with that as well. But they did this for quite a while, and I don't know exactly how many years they did this prior to, before it became Long Hollow Jamboree. I should have asked Eugene about that before maybe I started this little thing, this little episode, but I can ask Eugene about it anytime, and I can come back later and tell you. But we made music standing up at the end of the shelves that held the groceries, and over the meat lockers and everything was over on one side of the store. And of course you had your bread and your candy and your peanuts, your popcorn, and everything else was like over in the middle of the store. And he had a great big place, and he lived up on top of the hill there, and had lots of room for parking and everything. And so every Tuesday night, of course now, this is when I met Bill Monroe. We had played music together quite a while before I remember Bill coming down there until he changed it over, started selling food and making it a music venue and stopped pumping gas and so forth. I'm not too sure exactly what year Bill started coming over there, but I was one of the first ones to ever get with Golden Thompson and Eugene Harbison and start making music over there. And of course, back then it was mountain music, bluegrass music, hardly any country at that particular time. And that was always on a Tuesday night. And this was before we was having anything on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. So Bill Monroe would also come over there on Tuesday night, and they would play. They would have like a house band would be over there, and most of that was country music, and I don't think it was hardly any electric instruments involved back in those early days. If there was, it wasn't a whole lot of electric involved. You just got up there with your rhythm guitar and your mandolin and your fiddle, and you would get up there, and everybody would get up as guests and everything, and they get up and sing their country songs, and most of it was country, and they would dance. He had a dance floor. He created a dance floor out there a little bit later on. So, but I'm getting to when Bill started coming over. Bill started coming over again. I think he'd pretty much done away with the grocery store part of it and quit pumping gas and everything when Bill started coming. So when Bill started coming, they were having bluegrass. It was actually bluegrass. They call it bluegrass on Tuesday nights, and I think that was more or less Golden Thompson's idea. But that's when Bill started coming. Of course, all of me and I don't know, 25 or 30 other musicians would come over there. We'd play out in the parking lot. We'd play everywhere. There was people playing everywhere. And then when they started put the dance floor in, started dancing, they started going inside and playing from the stage more for country music. And they had a guy by the name of Monroe that used to be the lead country singer over there, which I believe he was like my third or fourth or fifth cousin, somewhere in that area. And he would sing country music, and they would have mandolins and guitars and fiddles. And again, I don't think there was anything electric back when that was going on. So while they were doing that inside, while we were outside playing in the parking lot and having a big time, and I remember a lot of guys were just learning back then how to play, and they were learning a lot from guys over there that were pretty good, and a lot of them would come over and learn a lot while they were over there from the older ones that had been playing longer. I remember a boy by the name of Carl Franklin, very good friend of mine. I worked with Carl. Carl played music with me an awful lot. I remember when Carl started learning to play fiddle. Carl Franklin's father-in-law was Robert Spicer, and he was from Dixon, Tennessee, and he would teach all these young kids or anybody who wanted to learn to clog or buck dance. He was the teacher, Robert Spicer, and Robert Spicer was, again, Carl Franklin's father-in-law. And I knew Robert Spicer drove a school bus for many years while I was still in school down in Dixon. So Robert was a wonderful teacher on buck dancing and clogging. Carl was just learning to play fiddle, and Carl would bring his fiddle over. He'd get out there and saw with all of us, and some were better than others, but it didn't make no difference. Carl Franklin was a very talented musician. Carl, before he passed away, he had bought a banjo, and it wasn't long till Carl was really picking banjo real well, and he became one of the finest fiddle players. Carl Franklin, as I was saying, he was a tremendous musician, and he could just play really professionally. And he passed away on us way too young a man to pass away on us. And I was speaking a little earlier about Robert Spicer, and Robert Spicer passed away on us as well. And Robert was Carl's father-in-law. And as far as I know, the last music that Robert Spicer probably was ever played to was myself and Gary Adams and Carl went down to Robert Spicer's house and sat in the living room and played for about 2 hours for Robert Spicer. Robert had gotten cancer and was he eventually passed away on us, but we were able to go down. Me and Carl and Gary went down and played music for him before he passed away. Because Robert Spicer loved that music, let me tell you. He loved music, loved that buck dancing. And so, anyway, brought Carl Franklin into it because he was a part of Long Hollow Jamboree over there, or Long Hollow Pike at the time, at the grocery store and everything. And again, that's where I met Bill Monroe, and that was what my main story is supposed to be about. But it's hard to keep my story away from Carl Franklin because he was such a great young man and a great fiddle player, and became a good banjo picker as well. But that's where I met Bill Monroe, and I believe Bill Monroe started coming over right after he had changed it over, maybe from groceries and had a dance floor, and they put in tables and started, I believe, had the kitchen open, and Bill started coming over there. And so that's where I met Bill. He was sitting there at the front table, and he found out that I could play guitar. And of course, Bill would they'd let Bill get up there about, I think it's about 8 o'clock on Tuesday nights. They'd let Bill get up there and do about 30, 45 minutes, whatever he felt like doing, of bluegrass music. And I got the privilege, and of course Carl got good. Carl had the privilege of playing fiddle with Bill as well over at Long Hollow Pike. So I'd play some guitar with Bill. Carl Franklin would play fiddle with Bill. And so that's where I met Bill, is at the Long Hollow Jamboree. And Eugene Harrison still owns the Jamboree. And I think his kitchen is still open, and he still serves food, but I'm not sure about the Jamboree part. I don't know exactly about that. But I went over, and Bill invited me over to his table, and I sat there, and he told me all about his young life growing up in Kentucky, things he'd done. And the first night that I met him, he told me all these things. And I actually went home and wrote 2 songs about Bill Monroe, and one of them was called The King of Rosine. And of course, Bill Monroe was born and raised in Rosine, Kentucky. That's where his old home place was at. And Rosine, of course, is still there, and they used to have a music barn there that they did bluegrass in. Don't know whether they still do or not. But Bill was born and raised in Rosine, Kentucky, so I named the song The King of Rosine. And I wrote another one. I can't place what the name of it is right off the top of my head, but I'm fixing to bring back those 2 songs of Bill back into my my song list, because I need to start singing those songs. I never did sing them a lot, but I need to bring those 2 songs back about Bill, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring those back, and I'm going to bring them back pretty quick. So I went with Bill a lot to his farm. I got to know Bill real well, and he had me start carrying him to the Grand Ole Opry. Bill was playing the Grand Ole Opry every Saturday night, and he would, from time to time, need a chauffeur, and he would get me to come over and chauffeur him out to the Grand Ole Opry. And of course, I enjoyed that. Met a lot of stars of the Grand Ole Opry back there, and most of them were very nice. And but I always carried Bill back, and he had his own dressing room. And well, actually, him and Wilma Lee Cooper had a dressing room sort of like together. I think the only one that had his own private dressing room out there was Roy Acuff. I believe everybody else sort of shared dressing rooms. If anybody else would have had a dressing room by themselves, it would have been Bill Monroe and Roy Acuff, I would think. But I had back then. I was drinking a lot back then. Before I quit drinking, and I had long hair plumb down to my shoulders. And I got wind that Wilma Lee Cooper wanted a fiddle player, so the fiddle player, I had played a little fiddle back there with him, and the fiddle player asked her about about me taking his place because he wanted to move back to the farm and could come off the road. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the things God did for me that night is he asked, was I good enough, asked her, was I good enough to take his place and play her music and everything. And she said, yes, but I'm not going to hire him because of his long hair. So I had this long hair, it looked something terrible. Sometime I'll find a picture and I'll post it for you. But it didn't look good at all. But again, I was drinking, so God kept me out of that. He didn't allow me to go do that because my drinking would have got worse, not better. I promise you that. So, tell you a little story about carrying Bill to the Opry one night. It was Christmas time, and Opryland always had 1,000,000 Christmas lights, or however many Christmas lights they would have. They'd brag on them and advertise, and people would come to see the lights. So I was carrying Bill to the Grand Opry one Saturday night, and I was driving his Cadillac. Well, I'm used to driving a Chevrolet pickup truck or something. It rattles and feels like you're doing 70 when you're doing 40. So I was driving that real quiet Cadillac and across the Cumberland River Bridge on Briley Parkway, started around the curve at the bottom of it, and traffic was stopped, dead still in the road. Here I am doing 70 miles an hour. This is where I learned about anti-lock brakes. Well, I hit those brakes, and now I was not drinking. I hit those brakes, and they went plumb to the floor. Well, in the old days, you pumped that gas, or pumped the accelerator, the brake pedal if you wanted to get more brake, you pumped them. Well, I pumped that Cadillac brake, and it didn't do a bit of good pumping them. I didn't get no more brake pedal than I had. So it went to the floor, so there's nothing left for me to do but hold the brake pedal to the floor. Well, I want you to know that car just all of a sudden just absolutely slowed down and stopped 6 inches from the back bumper of the car in front of me. So anti-lock brakes sure do work. They worked on that Cadillac. And since that time, I think I've got the same kind of brakes on my car I'm driving right now is a Cadillac, a 2007. And I had to do the same thing to mine one time. And they work. Probably one of the safest things they ever put on a car was anti-lock brakes. So Bill was up on the dash. I'm standing on the brakes, and this car is coming to a halt. Bill, his head's up on top of the dash, and his hat fell off. And we stopped, and Bill looks over at me and says, "Son, that was mighty fine driving. Boy, you're a fine driver. That's mighty fine." He picked that hat up off the dash, put it back on his head, and of course it took us about 30, 40 minutes to get to the Grand Ole Opry from there, in that traffic jam that we were in. But he thought my driving was great. He didn't know I was doing 70 miles an hour, and I didn't either, I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize I was going as fast as I was. But in that Cadillac, it was just smooth. So we went on to the Opry, and I continued to carry Bill to the Opry. And also, Bill would be off from the Opry or from doing gigs or anything. He'd be off from Sunday till like Friday. So I got this idea. There's a place up in Tompkinsville, Kentucky, and I knew a guy that owned this big auditorium that they held music on Saturday night. So I mentioned him about bringing my band up there, which was called, at the time, it was called Fast Forward at the time. Yeah, Fast Forward, I believe. At the time, it was called Fast Forward. So I talked to him about bringing Bill up there as my special guest, putting on some shows. Well, turns out he ended up putting us in a gymnasium, which had bleachers all the way around it, basically. And I knew this guy at the radio station up there. He had advertised for us. Lonnie Jones and Fast Forward and Bill Monroe as special guests are going to be Tompkinsville, Kentucky, Thursday night, 7 o'clock at so-and-so place. Well, we got there, and this place was packed. You couldn't get in the door hardly. It was absolutely packed. I think it would hold somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 people. And if they could have got in, there was more there. They just all couldn't get in. Everybody just loved Bill. So we did that, and I asked Bill on the way back on the first gig. I said, Bill, how much I owe you? He said, how about $500? I think we was charging $8. I think we was charging $8 to get in. So he charged me $500 to go up there and be my special guest for about 30, 40 minutes on my program. So that was such a good deal. We did that I believe total of 3 times. The third time that we was going to do it, the guy that advertised on the radio advertised it as Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys going to be in Tompkinsville, Kentucky, Thursday night at a certain time. Well, Bill started getting these calls from the Bluegrass Boys. Is how come we don't know about this show? The radio station knows about it. Everybody knows about the show but us, all the Bluegrass Boys. Well, the guy had made a mistake. And of course, you can imagine the guys, they thought that Bill had got a show without them, which is not true at all. Bill was my special guest, but the guys, of course, didn't like it too well, but basically wasn't much could be done about it. However, there was something done about it. What was done about it was, that was the third time that we went, and that time that happened, somebody called the union on Bill and made Bill stop doing that up there. So we were having a ball going up there about every 3 months. We didn't go up every month. About every 3 months, we'd go up there. So we went up there for the third time. The third time, the union was called in, and Bill had to quit doing it. So we quit doing it there. So meanwhile, Jim Ed Brown had the nightlife leased over on Music Valley Drive. This was about 6 months later than Bill doing that up in Tompkinsville with us. So I knew Jim Ed real well. And so I said, Jim Ed, I said, you're not doing nothing on Thursday night. How about my band coming out there and playing bluegrass and getting Bill come out and be my special guest? Well, I already knew that Bill couldn't go to Tompkinsville, Kentucky because the union had been called. Well, I figured 6 months later, that all been forgot about. Well, Bill went out there, and Bill would be my special guest. And Mac McGahey had a stroke, and most of you knows anything about music knows who Mac McGahey was. He was he was Porter Wagner's fiddle player on the Porter Wagner show for years. And he also played fiddle with Ralph Stanley, I believe. And but Mac McGahey was a great fiddle player and a great showman. He could dance, play that fiddle. He could just do it all. So he had gotten over his stroke and was getting back on his top game again. So he was my fiddle player. Bill was my special guest. So we went out there and we started packing that place on Thursday night. Of course, most of those people were coming there. They were tourists, people from the tourist industry. And they would find out that Bill Monroe was going to be out there. Mac McGahey, most of the people that watched the Grand Ole Opry or Porter Wagner show knew who Mac McGahey was. So Lonnie Jones and Fast Forward wasn't one drawing the crowd. It was Bill Monroe and Mac McGahey. And I'm not so stupid that I know that. But that's why I asked Bill, would he do it? And McGahey, Mac, he wasn't fiddling for nobody anyway, and it tickled him to death to come out there and fiddle with us. He just wanted to get back fiddling. And my amateur band, you might say, was a good place with Bill Monroe, and my band was a very good band at the time. That's a good place for Mac McGahey to start back up playing. So we started doing that, and we started packing the place out there. Well, it wasn't for about 4 or 5 times till the union got back involved again and stopped Bill from going out there. Well, I'm still carrying Bill backstage to the Opry and all that kind of thing. And Bill even spent Christmas with us one time. At the time I was married to Shirley. Most all of you knows who Shirley was. And her folks lived up in Manchester, Tennessee. So one Christmas came by, Bill didn't have nobody for Christmas with him, so we carried Bill up. He spent Christmas with us up in Manchester. We went over and played the nursing home. Bill did with us while we were up there on Christmas. So Bill did that, and I believe that same Christmas, James Monroe had given James is his son, of course. Had given him there was a bathrobe, a house coat, something of that nature, made like the American flag. And Bill wore that out on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. And by the way, Bill had a hip operation, and he had that hip operation. I'm pretty sure of this, not 100% sure, but I'm close to being sure that he had it on Monday, and he went back and played Grand Ole Opry on that Saturday night. Almost sure of that. Well, that following Sunday is when we went up to Manchester and spent Christmas with Bill Monroe in Manchester, Tennessee. So after we had to quit playing out there at the nightlife, and Bill had his hip operation. Not too long after the hip operation, I don't know how many months exactly, Bill had a stroke. And when Bill had his stroke, Bill was never able to come back to the Grand Ole Opry. So I want to say this about Ricky Skaggs. Ricky Skaggs was Bill Monroe's best friend ever, I do believe. I don't think there was a day when Ricky Ricky didn't go to the nursing home up in Springfield, Tennessee to see Bill Monroe. Ricky Skaggs was the best friend Bill Monroe, I'll promise you, ever had, and probably Bill Monroe was Ricky's best friend he ever had. It's just about not much doubt about it. Wherever Ricky could be to help Bill or be around Bill Monroe, he was, because Bill thought the world of him as well. So when Bill went into the nursing home, he never was able to return as a musician. Because when I went to visit Bill, Bill didn't know who I was. You can mention Blue Moon in Kentucky, Mule Skinner Blues, he wouldn't even bat an eye. He really didn't know anything after he went into the nursing home. And it's sad that we lost him as quick as he did, but Bill lived a good life and Bill lived a long life. And Bill Monroe was a fine man. And I appreciated him. I appreciated the things he did for me. He put me in places I would have never been. There's a place one time that was having a benefit, and I wanted to put my band in there and be part of the music, and they were already full up, and they couldn't do it. And so I mentioned to Bill Monroe about going with him. So I went by and got Bill, went down there with Bill, and he wasn't going to let me in. And Bill Monroe says he's with me. Where I go, he goes. And that was at the Bluegrass Inn, downtown Nashville, I believe is where they held that fundraiser. I don't know who the fundraiser for. And Bill called me up out of the audience to do a couple of songs with him. I did not have a guitar. Dale McCurry said, "You come up here, you can play my guitar." Dale McCurry let me play his guitar. Dale McCurry is one of the finest men I've ever met in my life. So There's some of them I know a lot about, some I know nothing about. But I can tell you one thing, Bill Monroe's a great man. Ricky Skaggs, is a great man. And also Dale McCurry and those people that I know personally. And sometime when I get a chance, I'll tell you about being in a movie in an actual video with Bill Fleck, Bill Monroe, and it's a couple more I have to think, but I'll tell you that in another episode. So this is episode 35. I'm going to quit right there, and we'll pick up in episode 36, and I'll tell you more about my music and what went on during my life and how God steered me through music and why he kept me out of things and probably I didn't need to be in. Because I understand what my limitations are, and he did too. So God helped me in a lot more ways than you ought to know. So we'll see you in episode 36, by God. You have a good day. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. By the way, before we turn this off, we gotta do a couple songs for you. I was about to forget. We always do you a couple songs before we wind this thing up. Thank you.
Really good on it by now, right?
That's right.
And we're gonna start off with one called "Hit Parade of Love." Got a lot of fellas on his love to hit the rain. If I can be number one, I don't know what I'll do. Or climb up to the top of love with you. On your parade of love, I know I'll never stop. Right along the way to find before I reach the top. Well, if I could be that soon, I really had it made. And I don't know number one on your love's hit parade. Another one that you play sure be hard to find. So put your arms around me and be my turtle dove. And I'll know number one on your hit parade of love. On your hit parade of love, I don't will never stop. Got a long, long way to climb before I reach the top. Well, you find you happy, I soon I really have it made. And I'll know number one on your love's hit parade. I would love to show. We can make a war with everything that I do. We don't have so much fun to have it made. And I'll know number one, I love a hit parade. On your hit parade of love, I know I'll never stop. Got a long, long way to climb before I reach the top. But if I knew I'd be there soon, I'd really have it made. And I'll know number one, I love hit parade. Boy, hit parade of love, I know I'll never stop. Got a long, long way to climb before I reach the top. But if I'm not there soon, I really have it made. And I'll know number one, he loves hit parade. And I'll know number one, he loves hit parade. Woo!
That'll be fine.
Get along about round, Texas the way I live. I want to run out of power, I lay down to run. I was born over really good.
and soul just for you and me. The dogwood